So basically, things are getting pretty heated between the US and Iran right now, and honestly, the situation is looking gnarlier than it has in years. We're talking about a full-blown escalation that's got everyone from Wall Street to the Pentagon sweating bullets. The whole vibe has shifted from just regular political tension to straight-up talk about cyber warfare and how American financial institutions could literally be in the crosshairs. Like, this isn't just your typical news cycle drama anymore. This is the kind of stuff that could actually mess with people's bank accounts and retirement savings and all that. What's crazy is that for a while now, tensions have been simmering between the US and Iran, right? But lately, things have been going from 0 to 100 real quick. There have been these military moves, sanctions that keep getting tighter, and honestly, a bunch of back and forth that's making everyone nervous. And now, the big question everyone's asking is whether Iran might switch tactics and go hard on cyberattacks instead of traditional warfare. Like, why deal with bombs and missiles when you can just hack into the financial system and cause absolute chaos? It's actually genius from a strategic standpoint if you think about it, which is probably why so many experts are losing sleep over this possibility. The thing is, Iran's already shown they've got some serious cyber chops. They've done it before, hit banks, took down websites, made some pretty bold moves in the digital space. So it's not like they're some amateur operation. These dudes have capability, they've got motive, and they've got serious incentive to strike back if they feel cornered. And right now, they definitely feel cornered. Everything from the economic pressure to the military posturing it all adds up to a regime that might be desperate enough to pull the trigger on something major. American banks are obviously sitting there thinking about this constantly. Like, these financial institutions are basically the lifeblood of the entire economy, right? If something went down with them, we're talking about major disruptions to everyday people's lives. People couldn't access their money, credit systems could go haywire, the stock market could tank, and honestly, the whole thing could spiral into economic chaos pretty fast. That's why banks are allegedly bolstering their cybersecurity like crazy right now. They're throwing money at the problem, hiring the best security experts they can find, running endless simulations and war games to see what might happen if an attack actually occurred. They're trying to stay ahead of the curve because they know they're vulnerable, and they know their targets. The government's been pushing warnings too, which is low-key kind of a big deal because usually they're not this explicit about threats. The FBI and the Department of Homeland Security have basically been saying, hey, buckle up. This might get bumpy, which is government speak for we're genuinely concerned about what might happen. They've been sharing intelligence with banks and other critical infrastructure, trying to help everyone beef up their defenses before something goes down. But here's the thing that's actually pretty wild. It's like Iran would be playing with fire if they did this, because the US response would be absolutely brutal. Like, we're talking about potential military strikes, even more severe sanctions, the whole 9 yards. So even though Iran has the capability to launch cyber attacks, the consequences would be insane. But at the same time, traditional military strikes carry even bigger risks. So maybe from Iran's perspective, cyber warfare is actually the safer option? It's like this messed up calculus where cyber attacks seem like the less destructive choice, even though they could still destroy a ton of people's finances and lives. What's really tricky about all this is that cyber warfare is weirdly ambiguous in terms of international law and responses. Like, if someone hacks your bank, is that an act of war? Can you legitimately respond with military force? Nobody really knows for sure, and that's part of what makes it so dangerous. There's this gray area where things could escalate really quickly because the rules aren't clear. The banking sector is apparently going absolutely crazy trying to prepare for this. They're running through scenarios where massive cyber attacks hit multiple institutions simultaneously, testing their backup systems, making sure they've got redundancy everywhere, and basically trying to make themselves as bulletproof as possible. Some of them have moved important operations to secure facilities, enhanced their monitoring systems, and brought in cybersecurity professionals from all over. It's basically an arms race in the digital space where banks are trying to get defended before the attack even happens. And it's not just the big banks either. Like, smaller regional banks and credit unions are also vulnerable because they often don't have the same resources to upgrade their security infrastructure. If an attack comes, it could hit everywhere, from the biggest Wall Street giants to your local credit union. That would be devastating for normal people who just want to access their money and pay their bills. The whole situation is basically this tense waiting game right now where everyone's locked and loaded, but nobody knows when or if something's actually going to pop off. It's like everyone's holding their breath, and that kind of uncertainty is probably worse than if something actually happened because at least then you'd know where you stand. Security experts are basically saying that if Iran wanted to do something, they could cause some serious damage. We're talking about ransomware attacks that could cripple financial networks, data theft that could expose millions of people's personal information, infrastructure attacks that could make systems go down for hours or days, and just general chaos that would be super expensive and annoying to deal with. The financial sector loses billions to cyber attacks every year already, and that's without a coordinated effort from a nation-state like Iran. If they really committed to it, the damage could be exponentially worse. So the real question everyone's wrestling with is what the US would actually do if something like this happened. Like, do you bomb someone for hacking your banks? That's not something that's been legally established before, and it could set a wild precedent. But at the same time, if you don't respond forcefully, you're basically saying that cyber attacks are just fair game. And that opens up Pandora's box for everyone else too. It's genuinely complicated from a geopolitical standpoint. What's probably most likely is that the US would respond with its own cyber counterattacks, maybe some diplomatic pressure and additional sanctions, and possibly some kind of military action if the attack was bad enough, or if the US decided to make an example out of Iran. But honestly, nobody really knows what the playbook is for this kind of thing, which is part of what makes it so scary. The financial sector is apparently coordinating with the government more closely than ever right now, sharing information about threats, vulnerabilities, and potential attack vectors. They're basically trying to pool their knowledge and resources to create a defense that's stronger than any one institution could create alone. It's actually kind of interesting to watch an industry that usually competes tooth and nail with each other suddenly working together because there's a bigger threat looming. Banks are also apparently advising customers to be extra careful right now, making sure they've got strong passwords, enabling two-factor authentication, and basically just staying vigilant about their accounts. They're trying to make sure that even if there is an attack, regular people's accounts are protected as much as possible. It's like the financial equivalent of telling people to keep their doors locked when there's sketchy stuff happening in the neighborhood. The stock market's been a bit jittery too, because investors are obviously nervous about what could happen. Markets don't like uncertainty, and right now, there's tons of it. If people start thinking that cyber attacks could hit banks, they might pull their money out, which could make things even worse. There's this potential for a self-fulfilling prophecy, where panic about the possibility of an attack causes an actual financial crisis, even without the attack happening. That's honestly scarier than the attack itself in some ways. So basically what we're looking at is this situation where Iran's got reason to be angry, capability to strike back, and the US and American banks are scrambling to prevent it from happening. It's a tense standoff where everyone knows something could go down, but nobody wants to be the one who makes the first move that sets everything off. The whole thing is kind of a mess, and whether anything actually happens or this just stays, as background anxiety remains to be seen. But one thing's for sure, the financial sector is not sleeping on this threat. And if you've got money in a bank, hopefully they're taking it seriously too, because your money depends on it. The next few months or years could be pretty wild, and we'll probably be hearing a lot more about this situation as things develop. Stay tuned, because this is definitely a story that's going to keep evolving and getting crazier.